What would you do if the very wilderness that once felt like home transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and whispers? As a game ranger, I had always found solace in the sprawling expanse of Kruger National Park, its beauty an intoxicating balm to my restless spirit. Yet standing at the edge of the dense Mopani forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that our latest expedition would unravel everything I thought I knew about this land and myself. My friends, Thandi and Sifo, had joined me on this journey, a decision we all believed would deepen our bond and expand our understanding of the wild. We had spent countless nights beneath the stars, swapping stories of our childhoods in the vibrant neighborhoods of Johannesburg, where laughter echoed in the streets of Soweto and the scent of braai filled the air. But that night, under the flickering light of our campfire, the tension hung thick in the air, like an approaching storm. As we gathered around the fire, the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. It was Thandi who first broke it, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you remember the stories about the ghost of the old ranger?" Her eyes glimmered with a mix of fear and curiosity. I had heard the tales too, the lore of a ranger who had vanished. Without a trace, his spirit doomed to wander the park, eternally searching for something lost. But I dismissed it then, brushing it off as mere folklore meant to scare children and tourists alike. Yet that night, as the shadows lengthened and the sounds of the nocturnal world surrounded us, a chill ran down my spine. The wind carried an eerie whisper, a sound that seemed to echo from the depths of the forest. I glanced at Sifo, who wore a furrowed brow, his usually bright demeanor dimmed by an unspoken dread. Something was off. We had set up camp near the Crocodile River, where the water shimmered under the moonlight, but even the gentle lapping of the waves couldn't drown out the growing tension within us. I felt a pull towards the trees, an inexplicable urge to venture deeper into the thicket, as if the forest itself beckoned me. It was an intoxicating call, one I couldn't ignore, even as my instincts screamed for caution. The first signs of conflict appeared when we heard it, a rustle in the underbrush, sharp and deliberate. We all froze, exchanging nervous glances. "It's probably just a kudu," I reassured my friends, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. Thandi stood up, her silhouette framed against the glow of the fire, her face pale. "No, that sounded different," she insisted, her eyes darting towards the trees, and she was right. There was something distinctly unnatural about the sound, a rhythm that felt too deliberate for the wild. It was as if the forest itself was alive, an entity with secrets buried beneath its roots. I could feel the weight of its history pressing down on me, a palpable sense of foreboding that gnawed at my resolve. The Kruger was a living, breathing entity, its landscape shifting from the golden grasslands to the dense thickets, each corner hiding stories older than time itself. I had grown up in the shadows of the Drakensberg Mountains, where the terrain shaped my childhood, and now, as I stood among these ancient trees, I sensed the same power, yet something felt different, darker. As we sat in silence, the moon rose, higher, casting ghostly light through the branches, and I couldn't help but reflect on my past. I was no stranger to loss. My mother had succumbed to illness when I was a boy, and the void she left had shadowed my every step since. Those early memories of wandering the hillsides, searching for her among the wildflowers, had shaped my love for nature. But that same love had also forged an unbreakable bond with fear, a fear that something could be lost again, something precious. "Let's check it out," I said, surprising even myself with the bravado in my voice. Thandi's eyes widened in alarm, but Sifo nodded, his curiosity piqued. Together we grabbed our flashlights and ventured into the trees, the beams of light slicing through the darkness like fragile threads. The forest closed in around us, each step echoing with the memories of those who had come before. The deeper we went, the more the air thickened, wrapping around us like a shroud. Shadows danced between the branches, and I could almost hear them whispering secrets of the past. I felt the pulse of the land beneath my feet, a heartbeat that quickened with every rustle and sigh. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once, but it wasn't until we stumbled upon a clearing that the gravity of our decision hit me. An ancient baobab tree loomed in the center, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The ground around it was disturbed, as if something had recently unearthed secrets long forgotten. My heart raced as I approached, a mix of dread and fascination coursing through my veins. "Do you feel that?" Sifo asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on us. It was like stepping into a different realm, one where the boundaries of reality blurred with the supernatural. The air crackled with an energy I couldn't explain, and I found myself drawn to the tree, compelled to reach out and touch its rough bark. But as I did, the ground trembled beneath our feet, and a low growl rumbled from the shadows, sending a jolt of panic through me. Something stirred in the darkness, something that should have remained hidden. The forest was alive, but not in the way I had hoped. We turned to flee, but the branches twisted around us, the path behind closing like the jaws of a predator. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the worst truth of all. We were not just intruders in this ancient land. We were trespassers in a story that had been written long before our time. And now, as night fell, something inexplicable was awakening. The darkness closed in around us as we stumbled backward, my pulse racing. Like a wild drumbeat in my ears, the low growl that resonated from the shadows felt primal, a sound that sent chills creeping down my spine. I could see Thandi's eyes wide with fear, while Sifo's face had paled as he instinctively grabbed my arm. The forest, once a friend, had transformed into a living nightmare. "Did you hear that?" Thandi hissed, her voice trembling. I nodded, unable to formulate a response. The growl echoed again, louder this time, vibrating through my chest, as if the very earth was warning us to turn back. "Stay close," I murmured, though I could feel the tremor in my own voice. We had ventured into the unknown, chasing shadows and whispers, but now it felt like we were being hunted. I led the way, flashing my light into the depths of the trees, praying for a glimpse of something familiar, anything that would guide us back to safety. As we moved deeper into the forest, the gnarled branches seemed to reach for us, clawing at our clothes and skin. I could feel the weight of the night pressing down, suffocating in its intensity. It was as though the forest itself was alive, watching us with unseen eyes. "Maybe we should call for help," Sifo suggested, his voice strained. "We can't just wander around aimlessly." "No," I replied sharply, desperation threading my words. "We need to find a way back to camp first. We can't split up. That's the worst thing we could do." The very thought of being alone in this foreboding place sent shivers through me. But as we turned to retrace our steps, I caught sight of something out of the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement in the underbrush. My heart raced as I swung my flashlight toward it, revealing a figure emerging from the shadows. The newcomer was tall and lean, dressed in a tattered camouflage uniform that hung loosely on his frame. His skin was weathered, as if he had spent years under the harsh sun, and his deep-set eyes glimmered with a mixture of wisdom and something darker. "Who are you?" I asked, instinctively stepping in front of Thandi and Sifo. "I'm Sam," he replied, his voice gravelly and low. "I've been out here a long time." "Long time?" Thandi echoed, her curiosity piqued despite her fear. "What do you mean?" He looked at us as if weighing the merits of our ignorance. "The forest has a way of revealing truths. You're not the first to wander too far into its embrace." I could feel the tension in the air thicken. "What do you mean, revealing? Truths? Is that what we heard? Is it just the forest?" Sam's gaze shifted to the trees, his expression unreadable. "It's not just the forest. It's the spirits that dwell here, the ones that have been wronged. They can sense your fear, your doubts." The words hung in the air, twisting like smoke. I felt a deep unease settle in my stomach. So, you're saying we're in danger? Danger? He chuckled, a harsh sound that sent a shiver down my spine. Danger is just the beginning. If you've awakened them, you'll need to understand what they seek. What do you mean? I pressed, my voice barely above a whisper. Before he could respond, the growl sounded again, louder this time, reverberating through the trees. I felt the air shift, a sense of impending doom settling around us. Run! I shouted, instinctively grabbing Thandi's hand and pulling her with me. Saifo followed closely, his breath quickening as we darted deeper into the forest, moving away from the sound. Sam's figure faded into the shadows, but something about him felt oddly familiar, as if he belonged to this world of whispers and shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that he had a purpose, a knowledge that shrouded him in mystery. The deeper we ran, the more the forest transformed, each tree and shadow morphing into something unrecognizable. The path twisted and turned, and I soon realized we were lost. Panic surged within me, a rush of despair as I tried to catch my breath. Where do we go? Thandi gasped, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear. I don't know, I admitted, frustration boiling within me. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on my shoulders, and I felt the fear radiating off my friends, feeding my own. As we stumbled into another clearing, I spotted something glimmering in the moonlight, a small, weathered totem resting against the base of a tree. My heart raced as I approached it, drawn to its strange allure. The intricate carvings depicted animals, lions, elephants, and birds, all entwined in a dance that felt both ancient and alive. What is that? Saifo asked, his voice quaking with uncertainty. I don't know, I replied, reaching down to touch it. The moment my fingers brushed against the cool surface, a jolt of energy shot through me, igniting a spark of understanding deep within. The visions came at once, flashes of the past, hunters, rituals, a community bound by respect for the land and its spirits. I saw the old ranger, his face twisted in anguish, as he searched for something he could never find. The forest was alive with history, a tapestry woven with the threads of loss and longing. Are you okay? Thandi's voice broke through the haze, pulling me back to reality. I saw something, I stammered, trying to piece together the fragments of my vision. I think there's a connection to the old ranger. Like a curse? Saifo asked, his brow furrowed in concern. Maybe, I replied, shaking my head as I tried to make sense of it all. But it feels more like a warning. We need to understand what he was searching for. It's why the forest feels so alive. The growl echoed once more, closer this time, and I could feel the ground tremble beneath us. Do you think it's him? Thandi whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know, but we have to find out, I said, a sudden determination igniting within me. We can't let fear control us. If we're going to face whatever is haunting this place, we need to uncover the truth. As we stood in that clearing, the weight of our journey settled heavily upon us. We were not just three friends on an adventure. We were entwined in a tale, woven with shadows and spirits, and I could feel the pull of destiny guiding us deeper into the heart of the forest. With a newfound resolve, we turned back toward the darkness, ready to confront whatever awaited us. But as we stepped forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were no longer alone. The forest was watching, waiting, and soon we would discover that the whispers were not just echoes of the past. They were a call to action, a beckoning to reveal the truth hidden in the shadows. The journey had only just begun, and the labyrinth of the wilderness would soon unveil its secrets. As we stepped into the darkness, I felt a strange sensation wash over me, a mix of determination and dread. The forest loomed around us, its ancient trees standing like sentinels, guarding secrets that were never meant to be unveiled. I tightened my grip on Thandi's hand, feeling her trembling palm against mine, and glanced at Saifo, whose face was a mask of uncertainty. We moved with caution, our flashlight beams cutting through the thick darkness, illuminating twisted roots and fallen branches that seemed eager to trip us up. Each step felt like a challenge, a test of our resolve, and the growl that followed us sent shivers down my spine. It was like the forest itself was alive, a beast waiting for the right moment to strike. "Do you think that totem is important?" Sifo asked, his voice barely a whisper, as we paused to catch our breath. "I think it's more than just a relic," I replied, the images from my vision still fresh in my mind. Those carvings, they told a story of loss and a search for something precious. "What if the ranger was looking for something he lost?" Thandi suggested, her brow furrowed in thought. "Maybe that's why he's still here, why the spirits are restless. Or maybe he's part of the problem," I countered, the weight of her words settling uncomfortably in my chest. "What if he's trapped here because of something he did?" The tension was palpable, and I could feel the air thickening with uncertainty. We had delved into a mystery far deeper than I had anticipated, and now, with each passing moment, I felt my grasp on reality slipping. I could hear the whispers growing louder, echoing the fears in my own mind, a cacophony of doubts that questioned whether we were meant to uncover the truth or if we were simply pawns in a game we didn't understand. As we pushed forward, I caught a glimpse of something glimmering in the distance. My heart raced as I pointed the flashlight toward it, revealing what appeared to be an old campsite, long abandoned and overgrown with vines and moss. The remnants of a fire pit were nestled among the trees, and scattered around were rusted cans and tattered remnants of tents. "Is this the old ranger's camp?" Thandi asked, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "Maybe," I replied, stepping closer to the fire pit. The stones were cold and dark, but I could sense the memories lingering in the air, echoes of laughter, warmth, and tales shared under the stars. Yet an unsettling feeling crept over me. "What do you think happened here?" Sifo's voice trembled as he stepped up beside me, his gaze fixed on the remnants of the camp. "I don't know, but something feels off," I admitted. "It's like the forest is trying to tell us something we're not ready to hear." Before I could delve deeper into my thoughts, a sudden rustle in the underbrush drew our attention, and the growl returned, closer than before. Panic surged within me, and I instinctively grabbed Thandi's arm, ready to bolt. "Wait!" Sam's voice broke through the tension, and I turned to see him emerging from the shadows once more. "You need to listen to me." "What do you want?" I snapped, frustration bubbling to the surface. "We're trying to survive here." "Survive? You think that's all this is about?" he said, his eyes narrowing. "You've awakened something that was better left undisturbed. It's not just spirits you're dealing with. It's a curse." "A curse?" Thandi echoed, her voice trembling. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, his presence looming like a dark cloud. "The ranger didn't just lose something, he lost himself. The forest claimed him, and now it demands a sacrifice to set him free. You three, you might just be the key." My heart raced as I tried to process his words. The idea of being a sacrifice sent a wave of nausea through me, and I could feel my sanity slipping. "You're not making any sense? We're not here to be part of some twisted ritual?" "No? Then why did you come here?" Sam challenged, his voice rising. "You're drawn to the darkness, to the unknown. It's what brought you here, and now it won't let you go." I took a step back, feeling the weight of his words settle heavily in my mind. Had I come here seeking adventure, or was there something deeper pulling me into this abyss? My past rushed to the forefront of my thoughts, my childhood spent in the shadow of abandonment, the feeling of never quite belonging. Was this forest a manifestation of my own fears, or was it something more sinister? "Listen to me," Sam continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The ranger's spirit is not the only one trapped here. Others have come before you, seeking answers, and they've been consumed by the forest's hunger. You need to understand there's a reason why you're here." "What are you implying?" I asked, my voice shaky yet defiant. "Your past," he said, his eyes boring into mine. "It's intertwined with this place. The forest remembers. You've left a piece of yourself behind, and it's time to confront it." My breath caught in my throat. Memories surged, My mother's abrupt departure, the anger and confusion that had followed, the feeling of being lost and abandoned. Had my search for answers led me here? Was I somehow connected to the ranger's fate? Stop. It, Thandi said suddenly, her voice rising above my spiraling thoughts. You're trying to confuse us. No, I'm trying to save you, Sam shot back, his voice urgent. But the choice is yours. You can either confront the truth or run and face the consequences. The forest will not let you leave until you do. I turned to look at Thandi and Saifo, their faces a mix of fear and uncertainty. We had come to unravel a mystery, but now I felt we were standing at the edge of something far more complex. I could feel the pull of the forest, its whispers tugging at my mind, and I realized that the deeper we delved, the more we risked losing ourselves in the process. We can't just walk away, I said finally, my voice steadying. We need to know what happened here. We need to confront whatever it is that's lurking in the shadows. We don't know what we're dealing with, Saifo protested, his eyes wide with panic. But we can't let fear control us, I replied, desperation lacing my words. We need to uncover the truth, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has come before us. If there's a chance to break this curse, we have to take it. As the growl echoed once more, a sense of urgency gripped us. I could feel the forest closing in, the spirits restless and hungry for answers. We had to act before we became part of the darkness, lost forever in its embrace. Okay, Thandi finally said, her voice trembling but resolute. Let's do this, together. We stood in that clearing, surrounded by remnants of the past and shadows of the future, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But as we prepared to move deeper into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that the truth we sought might be far more terrifying than we could ever imagine. The air thrummed with tension, and as we stepped forward, the whispers grew louder, beckoning us into the unknown. With each step, I felt the weight of my past pressing down, a reminder that the forest was a reflection of my own fears. It was time to confront not only the spirits of the forest, but the demons within myself. And as we plunged into the darkness, I understood that the real battle was just beginning. What awaited us was not just a curse, but a revelation that would change everything we thought we knew. The forest was alive, and it was waiting for us to unlock its secrets. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant rustling of leaves and the occasional snap of twigs underfoot. I could feel the shadows creeping closer, enveloping us in their cold embrace. Every instinct urged me to turn back, to escape this suffocating darkness, but I pressed on. The weight of our decision hung heavy in the air, and I could sense the others faltering behind me. Do you think we're making a mistake? Saifo's voice trembled, cutting through the hush. I turned to see his face pale, illuminated by the dim beam of our flashlight. He looked like a ghost, trapped between fear and the allure of the unknown. I swallowed hard, grappling with my own doubts. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But if there's a chance to break this curse, we can't back down now. The idea of being a sacrifice weighed heavily on my mind, but the thought of leaving unanswered questions behind felt even worse. Thandi stepped closer to me, her eyes wide with apprehension. What if we find something we can't handle? What if we find the ranger? Her voice quivered, betraying her fear. What if he's not the only spirit trapped here? I nodded, understanding her concerns. Every step into the forest felt like a step into a nightmare. With each rustle in the underbrush, my heart raced, and I felt the forest's breath on my neck. The whispers grew louder, swirling around us like a miasma of dread, and I could almost make out the words, "Turn, back, leave this place." But the deeper we went, the more my resolve solidified. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. I needed to confront whatever lay ahead. "We'll face it together," I said, trying to inject confidence into my voice. "If we find the ranger, maybe we can help him. Maybe we can even help ourselves." As we pressed further, the trees thickened, their gnarled branches twisting overhead like skeletal fingers. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath misting in front of me. Suddenly, the flashlight beam caught something glinting in the underbrush. I knelt down, brushing away the damp leaves to reveal a small, ornate charm, a wooden carving intricately shaped like a forest spirit. "Look!" I called out, holding it up. "This must belong to the ranger." Sifo knelt beside me, his curiosity piqued. "It's beautiful, but what does it mean?" I traced the delicate carvings with my fingertips, feeling a strange energy emanating from it. "Maybe it's a key to understanding what happened here." Thandi leaned closer, her brow furrowed in thought. "Or it could be a warning. We have to be careful. If the forest is alive, it might not want us here." I pocketed the charm, the weight of it heavy against my chest. As we stood, the growl returned, louder this time, reverberating through the trees like thunder. My heart raced as I glanced back toward the path we had come from, now shrouded in shadows. "Did you hear that?" Sifo whispered, his voice shaking. "What was that?" "It's getting closer," I said, panic creeping into my voice. "We need to move." We hurried forward, the oppressive darkness closing in around us. Each step felt like a gamble, the forest shifting and contorting as, if it were alive, breathing in sync with my anxiety. I could feel the weight of the forest pressing on my shoulders, demanding answers and sacrifices. As we continued, more clues emerged from the shadows, fragments of the past scattered like breadcrumbs, leading us deeper into the mystery. I stumbled upon an old, tattered journal half buried in the dirt. The pages were yellowed and frayed, but I could make out the handwriting, a frantic scrawl filled with fear and desperation. "Guys, look at this!" I exclaimed, pulling the journal free. "It's the Rangers." Thandi leaned in, her eyes scanning the words. "What does it say?" I flipped through the pages, my heart pounding as I read aloud. It talks about the forest, how it whispers at night, how it hungers for something, for someone. He was searching for something he lost, something that tied him to this place. "Like a loved one," Sifo suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe," I replied, my stomach nodding as I read further. "But he also mentions a ritual, a way to appease the spirits. He believed that if he could find the lost totem, he could free himself." "And what happened?" Thandi pressed, leaning closer. "Here," I said, my finger tracing the last entry. "He writes about the totem being the key to breaking the curse, but then it gets chaotic. He talks about shadows closing in, about voices calling to him, urging him to surrender." As I finished reading, a chill swept through the clearing, and the growl returned, more menacing this time. I could feel the air shift, the very essence of the forest vibrating with energy. "We need to find that totem," I said, my voice steady, despite the fear coursing through me. "If it's the key, we can't waste any more time." "But what if it's a trap?" Thandi questioned, her eyes darting nervously. "What if the forest wants us to find it for its own purposes?" I could see the conflict in Sifo's eyes, torn between fear and the urge to uncover the truth. "We can't let fear control us," I insisted, determination surging within me. "If we turn back now, we'll never know what truly happened here." Silence hung heavy in the air, each of us grappling with our choices. I could see the struggle reflected in their faces, the desire for safety battling against the pull of curiosity and the need for closure. Finally, Thandi nodded, her expression resolute. "You're right. We need to confront this." Together, Sifo added, his voice firm. We stood united, the tension palpable as we made our decision. But as we pressed on, the growl returned, closer than ever, vibrating through the ground beneath our feet. What if it's the Ranger? I wondered aloud, a mix of hope and dread coursing through me. What if he's waiting for us? Or what if it's something worse? Thandi countered, her voice trembling. Before I could respond, the underbrush erupted with movement, and a shadow darted between the trees. My heart raced as I turned, the flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. Just then a figure emerged, a silhouette cloaked in shadows. "Stop!" the figure shouted, and I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face etched with fear, eyes wide, hair wild, and clothes tattered. "You shouldn't be "Here!" they cried, their voice urgent. "You need to leave. The forest won't let you go." "Why?" I asked, my heart racing. "What do you know?" "They're watching," the figure whispered, glancing around nervously. "If they find you, it's over." "Who are you?" Thandi pressed, stepping forward. "What do you mean?" "I was like you," the figure said, desperation lacing their words. "I sought the truth, and now I'm trapped. The forest feeds on our fears, our desires. You're in grave danger." The growl intensified, echoing through the trees, and I could feel the forest closing in around us, its shadows stretching like claws, ready to ensnare us. "Listen to me," the figure pleaded. "You must turn back now before it's too late." I felt the weight of their words, the urgency tinged with fear. But with the truth so close, could I really walk away? "Wait," I said, my mind racing. "What if we can help you?" The figure shook their head, tears welling in their eyes. "No one can help me. The forest has claimed me. You must escape while you still can." Panic surged through me as I glanced at Thandi and Saipho, their expressions mirroring my own turmoil. The decision loomed before us like a chasm, and I could feel the forest's breath on my neck, urging me to choose. But as the shadows deepened and the growl reverberated through the air, I knew that whatever lay ahead would mark the turning point in our quest. The forest hungered for answers, and so did I. As we stood at the precipice of danger, I realized that the truth would come at a cost, one that might change everything we thought we knew about ourselves, the Ranger, and the dark forces that bound us all together. Determined to face whatever awaited us, I took a deep breath, ready to plunge into the depths of the unknown once more. The secrets of the forest were calling, and it was time to answer. As I stood there, the forest closing in around us, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders. The growl echoed through the trees, a primal sound that sent a chill up my spine. I looked at the figure before us, their eyes wide with terror, and I knew we were at a crossroads. "Please," the figure implored, taking a step closer. "You don't understand the power of this place. The forest is alive, and it craves what you carry within you." "What do you mean?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at my insides. "What does it want?" "It wants your fear, your regrets," they replied, their voice trembling. "And if you're not careful, it will take more than that. It wants your soul." I felt my heart race as I exchanged glances with Thandi and Saipho. They looked just as frightened as I felt. "We can't leave now," I said, turning back to the figure. "We're here to break the curse. We need to find the totem." "The totem is a trap," the figure shouted, their desperation rising. "It's not a key to freedom. It's a bait for the forest to ensnare you. You don't know what you're dealing with." But the words echoed in my mind like a drumbeat. The promise of answers, of finding closure for the Ranger and for ourselves, was too alluring to resist. "We can't turn back. We have to see this through," I insisted, my voice firm. "Then you're all doomed," the figure cried, their voice breaking. I tried to warn you, but the forest has its own will. You'll become part of its whispers, just like me. The shadows shifted around us, and the growl morphed into a cacophony of disembodied voices, each one urging us to flee. But the fear of the unknown was eclipsed by an overwhelming need to confront the truth. "Stay close," I said to Thandi and Saipho, my heart pounding. They nodded, drawing closer as I faced the figure once more. "If you're trapped here, then you must know something about the totem. Can you help us?" The figure hesitated, their expression torn between fear and a flicker of hope. "The totem is hidden deep within the heart of the forest," they finally said, their voice barely above a whisper. "But to find it, you must confront the shadows, the spirits that guard it. They will test you, showing you your deepest fears." "And if we fail?" Saipho asked, his voice low. "Then you will become part of the forest," they replied, tears streaming down their face. Just like me, I felt a wave of determination wash over me. "We've come too far to turn back now. We need to face whatever is waiting for us." "Then go," the figure said, their voice breaking. "But remember, the forest doesn't just want your fears, it wants your souls. You must be willing to sacrifice something to escape." The growl intensified, resonating in my bones, and I felt a pull toward the darkness ahead. "What do we have to sacrifice?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Only you can answer that," they replied, their face a mask of anguish. "But be warned, the forest will take what it desires, whether you're willing or not." With a final glance at the figure, I turned to Thandi and Sifo. "We need to go now. We can't waste any more time." We moved forward as the forest seemed to shift around us, the darkness coiling like a serpent, ready to strike. The growl morphed into a chorus of whispers, rising and falling like an eerie melody. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground itself were trying to pull us back. "Do you feel that?" Thandi asked, her voice strained. "It's like the forest is alive." "It is alive," I replied, my heart racing. "We need to stay focused. We're looking for the heart of the forest, where the totem is hidden." As we pressed on, the trees grew denser, their gnarled branches twisting like fingers reaching for us. Suddenly, a shadow darted past us, and I felt my heart seize. I turned, aiming the flashlight into the darkness, but all I found was more shadows. "Did you see that?" Sifo asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something's watching us," I said, my voice taut with fear. "We need to keep moving." But just as we turned to continue, the growl erupted again, closer this time, vibrating through the ground beneath us. I could feel the forest's hunger, a palpable force that seemed to swell with each passing moment. "We can't let it intimidate us," I said, forcing myself to sound brave. "We need to confront whatever it is. If we're going to break this curse, we have to face it head on." Thandi nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. "Together," she said. As we moved deeper into the forest, the shadows thickened, and the whispers intensified, swirling around us like a tempest. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, a spectral presence cloaked in shadows. "Why have you come here?" the spirit intoned, its voice echoing like a distant thunderclap. "We seek the totem," I replied, my voice steady, despite the fear gripping my heart. "We want to break the curse that binds this place." The spirit laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "You think you can just waltz in and demand answers? The forest doesn't yield its secrets so easily." "We're not afraid," I said, trying to muster courage. "We're willing to confront our fears, to face whatever awaits us." "Then you shall face the shadows," it said, its form shifting and swirling like mist. "But know this, the forest requires a sacrifice. What will you give to uncover the truth?" I felt a knot form in my stomach as I considered the weight of its words. "What kind of sacrifice?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Only you can determine that," the spirit replied, its eyes glinting with an otherworldly light. "But be warned, the forest will take what it desires, whether you're willing or not." "What do you desire?" Thandi asked, her voice steady. "What do you want from us?" The spirit's laughter echoed through the trees, and I felt the shadows closing in, pressing against me like a suffocating fog. "I desire your deepest fears, the very essence of your souls. Only then can you hope to find the totem." I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment crashing down on me. "I'll do it," I said, my voice firm. "Whatever it takes, I'll confront my fears." The spirit seemed to pause, as if weighing my resolve. "Very well," it said finally. "Step forward and face what lies within." As I stepped into the darkness, the forest shifted around me, swirling with shadows that beckoned me closer. I could feel the weight of my fears rising within me, swirling like a storm ready to break. The whispers grew louder, each one echoing. My insecurities, my regrets, the pain I had buried deep down. I could see visions flitting through the darkness, moments of failure, of loss, of abandonment. Each one grasped at my heart, pulling me deeper into the abyss of despair. I felt the shadows clawing at my mind, threatening to consume me. But just as I felt myself faltering, I heard a voice, Thandi's voice, calling out to me. "Stay strong." "We're with you!" Their support fueled my resolve. I pressed forward, determined to confront the darkness head on. "I won't let you take me," I shouted, forcing my way through the shadows. "I will face my fears." As I fought against the darkness, I felt the weight of the forest pressing down on me, demanding more than I was willing to give. I could hear the whispers growing louder, echoing my deepest insecurities. "You're not enough," they taunted. "You'll never escape." In that moment, I felt a surge of anger rise within me. I refused to be defined by my fears. I shouted, my voice breaking through the cacophony of whispers. "You won't take me!" Suddenly, the shadows recoiled as if struck by an unseen force. I felt a strange energy building within me, a light pushing back against the darkness. The growl morphed into a chorus of anguished cries, and I knew I was on the brink of something monumental. But just as I thought I could break through, a new presence emerged, a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing with an insatiable hunger. "Foolish child," it hissed, its voice a low growl. "You think you can defy me?" I felt a rush of fear, but anger surged alongside it. "I won't let you control me," I declared, my voice steady. The figure stepped closer, and I could feel its influence pressing down on me. "Then you will pay the price," it hissed, and the shadows lunged forward, a wave of darkness threatening to engulf me. In that moment, I realized what I had to do. I had to confront not just my fears, but the very essence of the darkness that sought to claim me. "I choose to stand against you," I shouted, feeling the energy within me surge. "I choose to fight for the truth." With a primal scream, I pushed against the encroaching darkness, like a dam breaking under pressure. The energy within me swelled, illuminating the shadows that pressed in on all sides. I could feel the weight of my fears, my regrets, and the very essence of the forest's hunger battling against my will. The growl transformed into a cacophony of anguish, the shadows recoiling as I took a step forward, my heart pounding in defiance. "Leave me," I shouted, my voice echoing through the trees. The darkness writhed around me, but I stood firm, channeling every ounce of strength I had left. The figure before me, cloaked in shadow, seemed to falter, its glowing eyes narrowing in anger and frustration. "You think you can escape?" it hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "You are nothing without your fears. You will always be bound by what you cannot face." "No," I yelled back, the defiance surging through my veins. "I am more than my fears. I will not be defined by them." With that declaration, I felt the energy within me explode outward, a radiant light pushing against the darkness. It was as if the forest itself hesitated, the whispers falling silent, the shadows parting like a curtain. I took a step forward, and the figure recoiled, its form flickering like a flame in the wind. But just as I thought I had gained the upper hand, the ground shook beneath me, roots twisting and reaching out like serpents. I stumbled, falling to my knees as the energy around me surged uncontrollably. The figure loomed closer, a look of pure fury on its face. "Foolish child," it spat. "You think this is over? The forest has its grip on you, and it will not let go so easily." I felt a sharp pain shoot through my chest, a reminder that no battle is without sacrifice. "I'm not afraid," I gasped, though I could feel the weight of exhaustion pulling me down. "I will face whatever comes next." In that moment, I summoned the last vestiges of my strength, pushing against the overwhelming force of the shadows. "I will not be a part of your whispers," I shouted, forcing the light within me to expand. With a blinding flash, the light erupted, cascading through the dark like a shockwave. The shadows shrieked, twisting and writhing as they were forced back. I closed my eyes against the intensity, feeling the energy pulse through me, a powerful surge that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. When I finally opened my eyes, the figure was gone, and the shadows had receded into the depths of the forest. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight lifting as the whispers faded into silence. I gasped for breath, the adrenaline coursing through me, mingling with the exhaustion that threatened to pull me under. "Is it over?" Thandi's voice broke. Through the haze, and I turned to see her and Sifo emerging from the shadows, their faces pale but resolute. I think so," I breathed, my body trembling from the exertion, "but I can't shake the feeling that it's just biding its time." We stood in the clearing, the forest around us eerily quiet, the oppressive energy dissipating like morning mist. But even as I felt the weight lift, I could sense the lingering presence of the forest, its hunger still palpable beneath the surface. "What do we do now?" Sifo asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. I hesitated, looking around at the trees that seemed to watch us, their gnarled branches swaying gently in the breeze. "We need to find the totem. It must still be here, somewhere." Thandi nodded, her determination shining through the fear. "But what if the forest hasn't released its hold on us? What if it still wants something from us?" I swallowed hard, the unease settling back in. "Whatever it wants, we can't let it take us. We have to stay united. We've come too far to fail now." As we ventured deeper into the forest, I could feel the lingering scars of our confrontation. An ache in my chest, a weight on my shoulders. The shadows had not just been external, they had clawed at the very core of who I was, exposing insecurities I had long buried. I glanced at Thandi and Sifo, their expressions mirroring my own turmoil. "Are you both okay?" I asked, breaking the silence. Thandi looked at me, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and resilience. "I don't know," she admitted. "I feel different, like something has shifted inside me." Sifo nodded in agreement. "I feel it too." The forest showed me things I thought I had dealt with. It's like it knows our weaknesses. The truth of his words hung heavy between us. The shadows may have been banished for now, but the scars they left behind would remain, shaping our dynamics in ways we hadn't yet grasped. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together," I said, trying to offer comfort. "We can't let this divide us. We need to stick together if we're going to find the totem and break this curse once and for all." As we pressed on, the atmosphere shifted, the air thickening with an unsettling tension. The whispers returned, low and haunting, echoing through the trees. I could feel their cold breath against my skin, and a shiver ran down my spine. "Do you hear that?" Thandi whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," I replied, my heart racing. "It's like the forest is alive again." Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, and a low growl reverberated through the trees, more ominous than before. I glanced around, my pulse quickening. "What does it want?" Sifo asked, panic creeping into his voice. "I don't know," I admitted, dread pooling in my stomach. "But we need to keep moving." Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow darting between the trees, too quick to catch clearly. I felt a jolt of fear. "Did you see that?" Thandi nodded, her expression tense. "What was it?" "I don't know, but we should stay alert," I said, my instincts sharpening. As we continued, the shadows seemed to close in again, a palpable darkness lurking at the edges of our vision. It was then that I realized the truth. Our confrontation had not vanquished the forest's hunger. It had only temporarily quelled it. The mystery of the totem, the curse that bound this place, was far from resolved. "We have to find the totem," I said, urgency creeping into my voice. "It's the only way to break this cycle." But as we pressed forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that the forest was testing us, waiting for our moment of weakness to strike. The stakes had grown higher, and the shadows were hungry for more than just our fears. I glanced at my friends, their faces, a mix of determination and fear. We had already faced so much, but the echoes of the forest's whispers lingered in the air, hinting at mysteries yet to be uncovered. As we ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, the atmosphere shifted again, the tension thickening like a fog. I felt a chill run down my spine, a sense of foreboding that suggested this was only the beginning. And somewhere in the depths of the darkness, I knew the forest was waiting, its secrets shrouded in shadows, beckoning us to discover what lay beneath. The journey to find the totem had only just begun, and the path ahead was fraught with danger, uncertainty, and the promise of new mysteries. As we pressed on, I steeled myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the true test was only just beginning. With each step into the dense heart of the forest, I felt the weight of the shadows creeping back, intertwining with my thoughts as if they were testing my resolve. The whispers returned, haunting yet familiar, echoing the fears I thought I had conquered. I could feel the presence of the forest, alive and watching, as if it were a predator, waiting for the right moment to pounce. Stay. Close, I urged Thandi and Sifo, my voice a low murmur as we navigated the gnarled roots and shifting underbrush. The atmosphere felt heavy, a palpable tension thickening the air around us. I wish we knew where the totem was, Sifo said, his voice tinged with apprehension. It feels like we're just wandering deeper into its grasp. This is the only way, I replied, forcing myself to remain hopeful. The totem is the key to breaking the curse. We have to trust that we'll find it. As I spoke, a sudden rustle in the underbrush made us all freeze. I held my breath, straining to listen, feeling the forest breathe around us. The shadows seemed to thicken, swirling with a life of their own, and an unsettling chill danced down my spine. Did you hear that? Thandi whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Yes, I said, my heart racing. We should... Before I could finish, a figure burst forth from the shadows, darting past us. I turned, my heart in my throat, but it was gone before I could discern its form. The forest felt alive, a sentient entity that thrived on our fear and uncertainty. We can't keep running, I said, shaking off the dread that threatened to envelop me. We need to confront this. The forest is testing us, trying to make us turn on each other. Sifo nodded, his expression determined. Then we face it together. Whatever it is, we're stronger as a team. With renewed resolve, we pressed forward, following an instinct that guided us deeper into the thicket. The shadows swirled, whispering secrets that tugged at the corners of my mind, but I pushed them aside, focusing on the path ahead. Suddenly, we stumbled into a wide clearing, the moonlight spilling through the treetops like silver. At the center of the clearing lay the totem, half buried in the earth, its surface etched with ancient symbols that pulsed with a faint glow. Hope surged within me, but it was quickly overshadowed by a sense of foreboding. As I approached the totem, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices rising around us. "It's a trap!" Thandi screamed, pulling me back, but I felt an irresistible pull toward the artifact. "No, we have to try. It's our only chance," I shouted back, stepping closer despite the mounting dread. The shadows coiled around us, thickening, and the air became electric with tension. I reached out, fingertips brushing against the cool surface of the totem, and suddenly the ground beneath us trembled violently. The shadows roared, swirling, into a tempest that threatened to consume us whole. I gasped, pain shooting through me as the darkness tried to pull me away from the totem's glow. "Hold on," Sifo shouted, grabbing my arm, but the shadows were relentless, clawing at our minds, forcing us to confront our deepest fears. Visions enveloped me, flickering images of my past mistakes, failures, and insecurities. I could hear the echoes of my own voice, filled with doubt, whispering that I was never enough. The forest was feeding on my despair, each memory a tether binding me to the shadows. "No," I cried out, summoning every ounce of willpower. "I will not be defined by my fears." I focused on the light of the totem, its glow growing brighter as I fought against the darkness. "We can break this," I shouted, turning to Thandi and Sifo. "Together!" As if in response, they stepped forward, their hands reaching for mine, grounding me in the midst of chaos. We formed a circle, hands clasped, and as our energies intertwined, a brilliant surge of light erupted from the totem, pushing against the shadows. The forest shrieked, the cacophony reaching a fever pitch as the darkness recoiled. But even as we pressed forward, I could feel the weight of the forest's hunger clawing at my thoughts. It was a battle between light and shadow, a fight for our very souls. But just as victory seemed within reach, the shadows shifted, coiling back in a desperate bid for power. "You think you can escape?" The figure reappeared, its voice a chilling whisper that wrapped around us like a serpent. "You are bound to this place. You will never be free." "No," I shouted, the energy within me surging. "We will break this cycle." With one final push, we focused on the light, and it expanded outward, consuming the darkness, forcing it to retreat. The shadows howled in agony, but the totem pulsed with a radiant energy, illuminating the clearing in a blinding flash. And then it happened. The shadows shattered like glass, scattering into the night, leaving us standing in the clearing, breathless and trembling. The forest fell silent, the weight of its hunger dissipating like mist in the morning sun. But as I looked around, a sense of unease crept in. The victory felt hollow, as if the forest's darkness would merely retreat, only to return again. The whispers had quieted, but I could feel their remnants lingering in the air, a reminder of the battle we had fought. "Is it over?" Thandi asked, searching my face for answers. I don't know, I admitted, the uncertainty gnawing at me. "It feels like we've only paused the inevitable." As we turned to leave the clearing, an eerie calm settled over us. The forest felt different, but I could sense it, the same hunger, the same shadows waiting to reclaim what they had lost. We had momentarily broken the cycle, but the forest was patient, and I knew it would not remain dormant for long. With every step we took, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were merely players in a dark narrative, bound to return to this place to face the shadows time and time again. The forest was an inescapable cycle, a loop that would continue until we learned to confront the true nature of our fears. As we emerged from the trees, the moon hung high in the sky, a silent witness to our struggle. I turned to look back at the forest, the shadows flickering at the edges of my vision, a reminder that the darkness would always be there, waiting for the moment we would falter. And I knew deep down that this was not the end. The cycle would repeat, and we would return to face the shadows once more. As I stepped into the world beyond the trees, I felt the weight of my resolve. We had survived this encounter, but the battle was far from over. The forest would call us back, and next time, we would be ready. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.